Greetings, I'm Michael O'Connor, and thank you for joining us at the Well. Joining me today is Steve Husak, and Steve, thanks for joining me. Our topic today is, how do we stay connected? What is our plan on staying connected with God? Mm-hmm. And to help us with that discussion, we're going to have Father Burke Masters. We've got a little video clip from him that, I listened to, and I just went, wow, there's a lot to unpack there, and I would just like to get what you take away from it, and I can share what I take away from it. And I think it's going to be something that is going to be worthwhile for us to hear. So let's listen to Father Burke right now.
So Jesus says, I am the vine, and my Father is the vine grower. He goes on to say, I'm the vine, and you are what? The branches. Whoever remains in me, and I in him, will bear much fruit. So he keeps talking about bearing fruit. The goal of the Christian life is not just to be, just me and God in this little, nice embrace. It's a good place to be, but it's also then meant to go out in some form or another. And so he says, remain in me. So how do you remain in another person? Think of this, the sense of things are starting to bloom out here. When something is connected to the vine, these leaves can only stay green or become green because there's nutrients that are coming up from the earth through the plant into the branches and the leaves. And so similarly, we have to stay connected to Jesus, who is the vine, the Father who's the vine grower. So how do we do that? I believe it's the first two pegs of that tripod. I'm filming this on a tripod where if you only have two legs, it won't stand up, but if you have all three, you can have a firm foundation. So it's piety or prayer and study. So Jesus says, love the Lord your God with your whole heart and soul and with your mind. And so how do we love God with our heart and soul? It's through prayer. And the greatest form of prayer is the Mass, where we dive into the scriptures, where we receive Jesus in the Eucharist. Another form of great prayer is adoration, diving into the scriptures, just being in silence. There's so many ways, Lectio Divina, so many ways that we can pray to feed our hearts. How do we feed our minds? It's through study, learning about the faith. Another reason why we do Be Formed is that people who learn their faith as adults, it takes on a whole new meaning than when we were children. And so I believe that every adult should go through something like OCIA or Be Formed, because I hear it probably on not a daily basis, but definitely a weekly basis. Father, I've been Catholic my whole life, and I didn't know this. And now that I'm learning this, it takes on a whole new meaning. I love going to Mass. I'm so much more focused when I go forward to receive communion. Those are the kind of things that study does. Read a good Catholic book, 5 pages a day. Matthew Kelly says if you read 5 pages of a good book each day, in 20 years, you will have read something like 220 books. But if I told you to go read 220 books, you'd say, I can't do that. But can you do 5 pages a day? Can you spend 5, 10, 20, 60 minutes in quiet prayer? That prayer and study will lead to the third leg of the tripod, this apostolic action. In our diocese, Bishop Hicks talks about catechesis, evangelization, and then putting our faith into action. It's study, prayer or piety, and putting our faith into action. So it all goes together. And Jesus says, love is willing the good of the other. Well, we can't love until we're filled with love. But if we receive the Father's love, we learn about him, we fall in love with him, then it's going to go out and we're going to bear much fruit. He goes on to say, if you remain in me and my words remain in you, this is done by prayer and study, ask for whatever you want and it will be done for you. God is not a magic gumball machine like, okay, I'm going to do this so I can get that. No, when we abide in his will, whatever he gives us is going to be amazing, It doesn't mean if I ask to win the lottery, God's going to, help me win the lottery. No, we won the lottery by believing in his son, Jesus, who died for us. And then he says, by this is my Father glorified, that you bear much fruit and become my disciples. So do you have a plan of attack? What is your plan for prayer? What is your plan for study? How are you feeding your heart? How are you feeding your mind? And then what is your plan to go out and share this faith with others?
Some good stuff there, Steve. What stands out to you when it comes to how do you stay connected that he had said, Father Burke?
Well, I think the first thing that Father Burke said in his idea of staying connected was prayer. And within prayer, he broke it down to mass, adoration, reading the scriptures. For me, being connected means to keep my relationship alive.
Yes.
And to keep my relationship alive, I need to talk to God. And to talk to God, I do that through prayer. I do that by going to Mass. I do that by trying to read the scriptures, every week, and determine how they apply to my life. When I don't do those kinds of things, I find my relationship slipping somewhat.
Yeah. And you mentioned two of the legs of the thing. The other thing is doing good for others. So it's the praying, the studying, and then the action.
Right.
And I know you get involved a lot with your church on doing things. And, because God is love, and love is not a noun, it's a verb. And so how are you acting it out, finding ways to do that? One of the things that Father Burke said in there that also hit me was when he says, as a child, we go through, Catholic education, right? And then where I started to drift apart, become unconnected, so to speak, is when I got into college and maybe, early in life, 20s and 30s and 40s, because it seemed like so many other things were more important, so to speak. But what I found now is that learning as an adult, this really hit me. He says, learning as an adult, you get a whole more full meaning of exactly what is going on, because you can really, because as a child, you're just learning things rotely and you're not really putting the focus into it. You're not actively studying it or praying. You don't even know how to pray. I mean, you're just doing things by memorization. At least I did when I was growing up. So I really like that is learning as an adult. And the Catholic the church offers a lot of things that you can stay connected with that you were going to mention. Some of the programs that they have.
Yeah. We have a faith formation commission. And if you just look at this past year, they had 2 programs on the Eucharist. Jesus in the Eucharist, this being the Eucharistic revival year, was 10 or 12 weeks, and where we got the opportunity to get together and hear and study about the Eucharist, and then share our own love and thoughts about it right here in the parish center.
No program has ever affected me more. It really, because I was watching the videos from it, and all of a sudden it just touched me immediately. And that's what really was the birth of this at the well. Right. I said, sit around, watch something that's powerful, and then share it with each other. So that made a huge impact. If I saw that when I was a kid, I don't know.
Yeah.
But as an adult, it really impacts you.
And then that for me, that idea of Jesus in the Eucharist and, Father Burke's connected idea. Probably the best way is to go to Mass, receive Holy Communion, go to adoration, do those kinds of things that help you continue with your relationship with Jesus and indeed stay connected.
Yeah, you know what? A lot of people get busy and they say, I don't know if I can do all those things you're talking about. I want to make clear that you don't do this in addition to what you do in your day-to-day life. You are doing it as part of your day-to-day life, if that makes sense. So, everything you do can be a prayer, whether that's making dinner, whether it's, helping others, whether it's just walking across the room with your cane, suffering as you do and just saying, okay, I'm doing this as a prayer to God. Mm-hmm. So, it can be all these formal things, but it can also be just living life with God in mind. So it doesn't have to be separate or segregated.
Right.
Just make it integrated. And I like that. I'll tell you something that's interesting. I never thought I'd bring in Tai Chi class to at the well, but I have a Tai Chi instructor who, when she gets a new person who joins the group, she has this little light tube. I don't know if you've ever seen one of these things. And she goes, I just want to show you how important community and connectivity is. And so she has us get around a circle and hold hands, okay? Then she says, okay, now I'm going to take this light tube and give it to one of you. She gives it to one of them, and the person, nothing happens. Said, put this into the hand of someone else. And also, as soon as you do that, it starts flashing and blinking. It's the electricity, the connectivity between those people that's important. If they let go, that light stops. If they put one finger on it, it starts again.
Wow.
So just think about that light tube of sorts. Just stay enough connected where that light is always blinking, and that light is really the true love of God.
Wonderful. Yeah. I have to try Tai Chi.
Anything else you'd like to say at all?
I heard a thing that Father Burke mentioned at one time relative to adoration, and then just recently Bishop Barron said the same thing. And it's adoration, mass, reading the scriptures. You're staying near the fire, and we've all stood around a fire, during the fall or any time, and how that feels, that gives you a certain amount of joy
and warmth,
warmth and generally connectivity to those around you. So
keeps that light flashing.
Yep, keeps that light flashing. Very good.
Steve, thanks so much for sharing your thoughts on this. It's really some good thoughts, and feel free to share this with others, and put a comment on the comment section if you'd like to as well, if you'd like to see other topics being discussed. But I want to thank all of you for joining us today, and especially Steve for joining me. Thanks, Steve.
Okay, Mike.
Keep praying, keep listening, and God bless.